Hello, my name is Jessica, and I'm 32 years old. I live in Boston with my husband Patrick. By profession, I illustrate children's books, but lately, even holding a pencil has felt heavy. There are days when I stare at the blank page and feel like it's staring back at me, waiting for me to become someone I'm no longer sure I can be. A few months ago, I was pregnant. We were both thrilled, Patrick more than me, I think. He would talk to my belly every night, make lists of baby names, and sketch tiny shelves and soft cribs. I had a little gold locket made, heart-shaped, simple, no engravings. I didn't want to jinx anything. I just wanted a symbol of hope. I remember holding it up to the light one morning and whispering, "This is for you." But our joy didn't last. The miscarriage was sudden. Silent. I barely had time to realize what was happening before it was over. What hurt more wasn't just the loss, but the way my family reacted. My mother, Jennifer, said I was overthinking things, that miscarriages happen all the time. My sister Olivia didn't even call. And my father Charles patted my shoulder with all the warmth of a bank teller. Only Patrick stayed close, holding me when I couldn't hold myself. Since then, things haven't really been the same between me and my family, not that they ever were truly warm. I was always the quieter daughter. The one who didn't demand too much, didn't shine as brightly as Olivia. She's the favorite, always has been. She's loud, confident, beautiful, and now pregnant. My parents are over the moon. I heard from my mother last week. She called to remind me, in that usual passive-aggressive tone, that Olivia's baby shower was coming up. "You haven't forgotten, have you?" she said. "It's a big moment for your sister." No, I hadn't forgotten. But I had hoped they might. "I'll be there," I told her. What else could I say? After the call ended, I sat on the edge of the bed and held the locket in my hand. My baby was gone. My grief had no room in their world. But still, part of me needed to be there, to see it through, to face it, or maybe to finally let go. The week before the baby shower crawled by like a shadow that wouldn't lift. Patrick noticed the shift in me, how I sat longer at my desk but produced nothing, how my eyes lingered on the same page of a book without reading a word. "Jess," he said one evening as he cleared the dinner plates, "you don't have to go if it hurts too much." I looked up from my untouched pasta and gave a faint smile. "They'll say I'm selfish, that I'm trying to make it about me." "You're allowed to protect yourself," he said gently, setting the dishes down. "You don't owe them your pain." He was right. But that was never how things worked with my family. I was always the one who made peace, who showed up even when I was falling apart inside. Olivia never had to try. She was always their pride, and I was their reminder of everything less than. 2 days before the party, I got another call, this time from my mother. "Just wanted to make sure you're still helping with the decorations," she said in that clipped voice of hers. "You're good at that kind of thing, aren't you?" I bit the inside of my cheek. "I've been busy with work, but I'll do what I can." "I checked your schedule with Patrick. He said you're free." I froze. Of course she'd asked him. Patrick was too polite to push back, but I could feel the tension in his voice later when he said, "I'm sorry. I didn't think she'd use it against you." "It's fine," I told him, though it wasn't. That night, I reached into my drawer and ran my fingers over the smooth gold surface of the heart-shaped locket. I had tucked it away after the miscarriage, unable to look at it for weeks. But lately, I found myself holding it again, not with hope this time, but with a kind of quiet defiance. They didn't get to decide how I grieved. The next morning, just when I thought I couldn't take another ounce of emotional weight, my phone lit up with a name that brought relief. Eleanor. My father's older sister. A quiet, observant woman with sharp eyes and a warm heart. She lived in Vermont, but called often, more than my own parents. "I'll be in Boston this weekend," she said. "Would it be all right if I stayed with you?" I exhaled. "Yes, please." Her visit would be the one thing keeping me grounded. I needed someone in my corner, and Eleanor had always been quietly, fiercely mine. Eleanor arrived on Friday afternoon, her suitcase in one hand and a paper bag of warm muffins in the other. "You've lost weight," she said as soon as I opened the door. "Are you eating properly?" I hugged her tightly. "Trying." She stepped inside, looked around, and nodded in approval. Still smells like lavender and ambition in here. We settled in the living room with tea and muffins, and for the first time in weeks, I felt my shoulders drop. Eleanor had that effect. She didn't pry, but she noticed everything. After a long silence, she finally asked, "How they treated you since everything?" I didn't answer right away. My throat tightened. Patrick was in the kitchen, giving us space, though I knew he was listening and silently grateful for her presence. "They act like it was a cold I should have gotten over," I finally said. "Mom told me to try again soon. Like I lost a sock." Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "That's vile." "They don't mean to be cruel," I whispered, defending them even as it hurt. "They just don't know how to love me properly." "They never learned how," she said. "And that's not your fault." Later that evening, I went into town to buy a gift for Olivia's baby. Something simple, neutral. But as I stood among pastel blankets and overpriced stuffed animals, I felt the familiar pang, like something was pressing on my chest. That's when I heard my name. "Jessica." I turned to see Eric, Olivia's husband, standing a few feet away, holding a couple of bags from a boutique down the block. "Hey," I said, startled. He walked over, eyes kind. "Looking for a gift?" "Something like that." He hesitated. "Can I say something?" "Sure." "I know this can't be easy for you. I've seen how things are. I just wanted you to know, not everyone's blind." His words surprised me. "Thank you," I said, a little unsure how to respond. "If you ever need anything," he added, "you can talk to me." "I mean that." I nodded slowly. "You're a good man, Eric." He gave a small smile and walked away. I stood there for a moment, holding a baby blanket I didn't want to buy, wondering what he had seen that made him say that. Maybe I wasn't so crazy after all. Maybe someone else could finally see the cracks beneath my family's perfect surface. The Golden Garden was one of Boston's most upscale restaurants, a restored 19th century mansion with marble staircases, glittering chandeliers, and walls the color of blush and ivory. Ironically, I had helped design the upstairs banquet hall a few years ago. I should have felt proud walking in. Instead, my stomach was in knots. Patrick, Eleanor, and I stepped inside together. "You don't have to stay the whole time," Patrick whispered. "We leave the moment it gets ugly." "I know," I said. "Thank you." The hall was decked out in blue and pink balloons, floral arches, and a glittering banner that read, "A new star is coming." I recognized my own decorative style in the details. My mother had used the sketches I'd emailed her last week, without giving me credit. Olivia stood in the center, glowing in a designer maternity gown, surrounded by cameras and laughter. Her husband Eric stood off to the side, quietly watching. My mother spotted me almost instantly and walked over, arms open and smile forced. "Jessica, finally. Everyone's here." She led me into the room, made a show of greeting Eleanor, then pulled me aside near the gift table. "I hope you brought something meaningful," she said, voice low and sharp. "Olivia deserves something special today." "I picked something from the registry," I said, already uneasy. She gave a tight smile. "Actually, I was thinking the gold locket." I froze. "What?" "You know, the one you had made. It's just sitting in your drawer. This baby deserves it now." "That locket was for my child." "It was for a child. Now give it to one who's alive." My throat went dry. "No." Her smile vanished. "Excuse me?" I said no. I repeated. "It's mine. It's all I have left of." Before I could finish, her hand shot out and grabbed a fistful of my hair, yanking me forward. Gasps filled the room. Then, a sharp, echoing slap across my face. Everything stopped. Aunt Eleanor lunged forward. Patrick shoved through the stunned crowd, grabbing my mother's arm. "Are you insane? You just assaulted her. In front of everyone." "She's being dramatic," Jennifer snapped, brushing her hand off like she was shaking off dust. "Always making it about herself." "You're done," Patrick said through clenched teeth. "You're going to jail for this." He pulled out his phone and dialed. "Yes. I need police at Golden Garden now." I touched my face and tasted blood. This was no longer about a baby shower. This was war. I stood there, stunned, cheek burning, heart pounding, eyes blurred. The room, once filled with laughter and clinking glasses, had fallen into absolute silence. The only sound was the distant hum of the chandelier's soft lights and Patrick's voice speaking calmly but firmly into the phone. Yes, an assault just occurred. She was struck in front of multiple witnesses, he said. We're at the Golden Garden. Second floor banquet hall. My mother had retreated a few steps, her arms folded, a look of forced calm on her face. Olivia just stared, not with guilt or concern, but with the mild discomfort of someone watching a scene they hoped wouldn't ruin their party. Eleanor helped me sit down, whispering, "You're okay. Just breathe." Eric approached quietly and handed me a cold glass of water. "I'm so sorry, Jessica. This is unforgivable." "Thank you," I whispered, still dazed. Within minutes, flashing lights glowed outside the front windows. The atmosphere inside shifted, tension thickening like fog. Moments later, Officer Grant stepped into the hall, followed by another officer. His presence commanded attention. The guests parted instinctively, eyes wide. "I'm Officer Grant," he said, firm but calm. "We received a report of physical assault." "Who's the victim?" Patrick raised his hand and pointed. "My wife, Jessica Harrison." She was slapped across the face by her mother. It wasn't an accident. It was deliberate, aggressive, and public. Officer Grant turned to me. "Ma'am, do you require medical attention?" I shook my head. "No. Just justice." He nodded. "Can you point out the person who struck you?" Slowly, I raised my hand and pointed. "Her. Jennifer Carlisle. My mother." There was a long pause as Officer Grant looked at her. "Ma'am, I'm placing you under arrest for assault." My mother laughed, a short, bitter sound. "You've got to be kidding. Over a slap?" Officer Grant pulled out his cuffs. "This isn't up for debate. You committed a criminal offense in public, witnessed by multiple people." The crowd gasped as he gently but firmly cuffed her wrists. She barked insults as she was led away, to what would finally be a consequence she couldn't control. Patrick wrapped his arm around me and whispered, "You're safe now. This ends here." But as I leaned into him, one thought clung to me like a shadow. This slap wasn't the only thing they had done to me. There were deeper scars, ones that hadn't been seen yet. The next morning, I sat in the quiet office of Samantha Reed, a seasoned family attorney whose calm voice was matched only by the sharp focus in her eyes. Patrick sat beside me, his fingers laced with mine. "Assault is just the surface," he told her. "We want to file formal charges. And there may be more." Samantha nodded. I saw the footage. The restaurant security cameras captured everything. That alone is enough to press charges. "But you mentioned something deeper?" I hesitated, then spoke the words that had haunted me for months. "I lost my baby a few months ago. I thought it was natural, but something never felt right." Samantha leaned forward. "Go on." Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door. To my surprise, it was Eric, Olivia's husband. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he said, stepping in, "but I need to speak. This can't stay hidden anymore." Samantha nodded and gestured for him to sit. He looked at me, his expression heavy with guilt. "Jessica, I didn't know how to bring this up before, but I've known something for a while, and after yesterday, I can't stay quiet." My chest tightened. "What are you talking about?" He reached into his bag and pulled out a folder. Inside were screenshots of text messages, pharmacy receipts, and a few handwritten notes. "I found these on Olivia's phone," he said. "Months ago, around the time you announced your pregnancy. She and your mother were furious, not on the surface, but behind closed doors. They said you weren't meant to have the first child, that it should have been Olivia." I stared at the pages in disbelief. They bought supplements, herbal at first, but eventually prescription meds. Your mother told Olivia she had slipped them into your tea during that lunch at her place. The same week, you lost the baby. The air left my lungs. Samantha took the folder, her voice calm but hard. "This is attempted fetal harm, possibly premeditated miscarriage. We'll add these to the case immediately." Eric nodded, clearly shaken. I've been building up the courage to do this for months. But after what I saw yesterday, I couldn't live with myself if I stayed silent. Patrick squeezed my hand. I could barely speak. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you for telling me." As Samantha made notes, I realized something sharp and painful. They hadn't just taken my dignity, they had taken my child. But now, I would take everything back. The courtroom was cold, not in temperature, but in tone. Neutral walls, sharp lines, and voices that held weight without emotion. I sat beside Samantha, my hands clenched in my lap, Patrick on the other side. Across the aisle sat the people I once called family. My mother, Jennifer, wore a forced expression of composure, lips pressed into a flat line. My father, Charles, avoided my gaze entirely. Olivia, though handcuffed like the others, seemed more irritated than ashamed, as if the trial were an inconvenience to her glowing narrative. The judge entered, and everyone stood. What followed was a long day of evidence, arguments, and revelations that peeled back every layer of deceit. Samantha was masterful, calm, precise, and deeply prepared. She submitted the restaurant's security footage, showing the public assault in crystal clarity. Then came the medical records for my miscarriage, followed by Eric's testimony and the damning evidence, text messages between Jennifer and Olivia, joking about leveling the playing field and referring to my pregnancy as a mistake that needed correcting. Eric's voice trembled as he told the court everything. "I didn't know until it was too late," he said. "But once I did, I started documenting it. Because even I couldn't believe they were capable of this." The judge's expression hardened more with each word. When it was my turn to speak, I stood slowly. "They didn't just attack me physically," I said. "They stole something I was never going to get back. They took away my chance to become a mother, not by accident, but by intention. And then, when I said no to giving away the only thing I had left, a locket, they tried to humiliate me in front of everyone. But I'm still standing." A hush fell over the room. The verdict came swiftly after closing arguments. Jennifer, my mother, was sentenced to 5 years in state prison for assault, intentional harm, and premeditated interference with a pregnancy. Olivia, my sister, received 4 years for collusion and psychological abuse. Charles, my father, was sentenced to 5 years for complicity and emotional negligence. There were no tears on their side, only disbelief. As they were led away, Olivia turned once to Eric. He didn't meet her eyes. Patrick wrapped his arm around my shoulders. "It's over," he whispered. "No," I said, finally breathing freely. "It's just beginning." Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't silenced. And justice, real justice, had finally spoken for me. 2 months after the sentencing, I received a quiet call from Eric. His voice was steady, but there was something heavy beneath it. "Olivia went into labor," he said. "They rushed her to Boston General under full custody. She delivered a baby girl this morning." I paused, not knowing what to feel. "Is she all right?" "She's fine. Healthy. No complications. Olivia's being kept in the hospital for a few days for recovery. Standard procedure. 2 guards are outside her room around the clock." "And the baby?" "She's beautiful," he said softly. "But she won't be staying with Olivia." Eric explained that the moment Olivia was declared medically stable, she would be returned to prison to finish her sentence. No appeals. No special treatment. Her rights had been reviewed, and given the crimes and the unstable environment, the court had made a swift decision. Full legal custody of the child was awarded to Eric. "I filed for divorce a while ago," he added. "The judge finalized it today. It's done." There was a silence between us, but it wasn't awkward. It was honest. "I never wanted it to come to this," Eric said. "But I also couldn't keep pretending. The child deserves better." "You did the right thing," I told him. "You told the truth when no one else would. And now you're protecting your daughter. That's what real family does." Later that evening, Patrick and I sat on the porch, watching the orange glow of the sunset. I told him everything Eric had said, and we sat there, processing it all. "She gave birth in police custody," I murmured. And still, I feel nothing. Patrick nodded. You don't have to. She never gave you a reason to. I looked down at the locket resting in my palm. That small heart-shaped gold piece had once symbolized everything I hoped to become. Now it represented everything I had survived. She took something from me, I whispered. But she doesn't get to keep taking. No, Patrick said. She won't. In the days that followed, Eric sent us a photo of the baby. A tiny, swaddled bundle with bright eyes and a soft cap. Her name is Grace, he wrote. And she'll never know what her mother did. Only that she is loved. For the first time in a long while, I believed it. Not all beginnings are clean. But some come after we've lost everything, and they still count. Spring returned to Boston with its usual promise. Magnolias blooming along the sidewalks, cafe windows thrown open, and sunlight that lingered just a little longer each evening. The wounds of the past winter were still healing, but life, in its quiet insistence, kept moving forward. One Saturday afternoon, as I was rearranging books on the living room shelf, the doorbell rang. Patrick was in the garden and I called out, "I've got it." When I opened the door, Aunt Eleanor stood there with a soft smile on her face, and beside her was a young girl, maybe 12, with large hazel eyes and tightly clasped hands. "Jessica," Eleanor said warmly, "I'd like you to meet Nora." I smiled gently and knelt a little.
Hi, Nora.
"It's nice to meet you." "Hi," she said shyly. "You have a pretty house." "Thank you," I said, stepping aside. "Come on in." In the living room, over lemonade and cookies, Eleanor explained quietly. "Nora's mother passed away in a car accident last month. There are no other relatives willing to take her. She's been in temporary care while social services search for a placement. I told her about you, about how you've turned pain into strength, and she wanted to meet you." I looked at Nora, who was silently watching me with cautious curiosity. She wasn't fragile, I could already tell, but she was guarded. The kind of child who had seen too much too soon. Patrick came inside, wiping his hands on a towel, and smiled at her. "You like gardening?" he asked. "I could use some help with the flowers." Nora nodded quickly. "I like sunflowers." "We'll plant some," he said. After Eleanor left, Nora stayed for dinner. She asked thoughtful questions, offered to help clear the table, and told us she wanted to become a vet one day. When I tucked her in on the guest bed that night, she turned to me and whispered something that wrapped around my heart like a ribbon. "Family doesn't have to be blood, right?" I blinked, my throat tight. "No, sweetheart. It doesn't." Later that night, Patrick and I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I think," I said slowly, "that our home has one more room than we thought." He reached over and held my hand. "Then let's fill it with someone who truly belongs." I smiled through quiet tears. We hadn't planned for this. But maybe, just maybe, this was the family we were always meant to build. 1 year later, our home didn't feel the same, and that was a good thing. Nora's laughter filled the spaces that used to echo. Her drawings hung on the fridge next to appointment reminders and grocery lists. Her shoes were by the door, her books stacked on the coffee table, and her favorite sunflower mug sat beside mine each morning. I had resumed my illustration work, though I now included Nora in my brainstorming sessions. She had a sharp eye for color and a wild imagination. "Draw the owl with glasses," she'd say, or "Give the princess a backpack. She looks like she'd run away if she needed to." Patrick had built her a small reading nook under the stairs, complete with beanbags, fairy lights, and a shelf just for her growing book collection. He had also planted a row of sunflowers along the back fence, just like he promised. Sometimes, late at night, I'd find myself awake, not from grief anymore, but from quiet gratitude. I'd walk into Nora's room and watch her sleep, curled beneath a quilt Eleanor had made. And every time, my hand would find its way to my necklace. The locket was still there, still heart-shaped, still gold. It didn't hold grief anymore. It held memory.
And peace.
Eric visited now and then with baby Grace, who was crawling and babbling and loved to tug at Patrick's beard. Eric had started a new chapter of his own, slowly rebuilding what had been broken, this time with honesty and purpose. As for my parents and Olivia, they were still serving their sentences. I didn't think about them much. Not out of bitterness, just absence. The same way a room feels when the door's been shut for good. Eleanor often reminded me, "You don't owe them space in your life, Jessica. You earned the right to choose who stays." And I had chosen. One Sunday morning, Nora joined me on the porch, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "I had a weird dream," she said, "that we lived in a house made of drawings." "Was it falling apart?" I teased. "No," she grinned. "It was perfect." I leaned down and kissed the top of her head. "Then we'll build it together." As the morning sun lit up the street, I held my daughter close, the one I never expected but desperately needed. My heart didn't ache anymore. It was full. Finally. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like to hear more powerful stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll